Yeah, good afternoon and welcome to the 25th annual exhibit of Hydrogen and Fuel Cell Technologies. We've been here for several years and we've been joined by people from Connecticut who have a sincere interest in furthering the goals of reaching a clean, renewable energy economy. It's so important to everyone, but Connecticut particularly is dedicated to that goal, and they even have a Department of Economic and Community Development with people dedicated to the fuel cell and hydrogen industry, to developing those resources and getting companies anchored in that region. So I'm thrilled that the director, George Norfleet, is here next to me on my left. Aaron Knight, who's doing business development in the region, is there next. And then last but not least, Paul Aresta, who's manager of Energy Initiative, all from the state of Connecticut. Welcome to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, we'll start with the general, I suppose. Can you tell us about Connecticut and the business climate there for advanced manufacturing companies? George.
Okay. Yeah, so we have what I think is an outstanding climate for not just advanced manufacturing, but many different industry sectors. Advanced manufacturing happens to be one that, in particular, that we have targeted, and thus that's part of the reason that we're here. We, I guess, should start with the fact that where we are located, geographically speaking. We are situated on the eastern seaboard. Most people may not have actually ever been to the state of Connecticut. We would love for you to come. But it is right next to New York City, which most people have come to, and we are situated between New York City and Boston. Within a 500-mile radius of where we are located, you will find approximately a third of the gross domestic product of the United States of America, as well as a third of our population. So as far as our market, we have an outstanding market there. Going back to advanced manufacturing, we have a history of advanced manufacturing in the state, dating back, being a supplier to the military. That has manifested itself today, as we still have some manufacturers in the state that are major contributors with Department of Defense contracts, such as United Technologies, Pratt & Whitney, making jet engines. We have Electric Boat, which manufactures nuclear submarines, and Sikorsky, which manufactures helicopters. So we have a thriving advanced manufacturing industry in the state, and we think that you can't go wrong if that's what you're looking for, precision manufacturing.
And that's what many people are looking for. People like to rank things, Aaron. So how does Connecticut rank compared to other areas in the United States?
Connecticut actually ranks very highly when compared to other states in the U.S. We have a very highly educated and productive workforce. We rank third most in educated population based on their advanced degrees. We rank fourth most in productivity for the workforce. We have, as George said, in advanced manufacturing, a highly skilled workforce that's able to deliver high-end products. We also have, are one of the top states in the U.S. when it comes to fuel cells, and that's why we're here. We have fuel cell patents and that technology that's being developed and continue to be advanced within the state of Connecticut. That industry continues to thrive and is growing. But we're also an innovative state. We have co-working spaces, innovation places. We have startup hubs. We have various different locations within our major cities that have a culture and a climate to continue advancing and creating innovative technology. Stanley Black & Decker is a company within the state of Connecticut that's created their Stanley Technology Center. That center is in our capital in Hartford, Connecticut, and that group is doing currently taking applications for their second round of 3D manufacturing startup innovation opportunity. So that application is open until, I believe, June 7th. I'm sorry, that application is open until April 7th. We also have Connecticut Innovations, which is the equity arm of the state of Connecticut. That group is currently taking applications for their innovation opportunity and competition. There's a $5 million competition to develop and create, come in and work with them to have access to people who are interested in developing technology within the state of Connecticut. That application, again, is open until April 7th. So we're definitely an innovative place, innovative state, and there's lots of opportunities to continue advancing technology within our state.
And of course, there's already several fuel cell manufacturers in the state. Can you describe the number and type and what they do there?
Sure can. Yes, there's large OEMs within our state of Connecticut. We have Fuel Cell Energy, which is in Danbury, Connecticut. We have Proton Onsite, which is a Nell company, and they're situated right over there. They're in Wallingford, Connecticut. We also have Doosan Fuel Cell, which is located north of Hartford. They're based in Connecticut. So those are the top Tier 1 OEM manufacturers on the, in our state, which is on the East Coast. But we also have 600 companies within the supply chain that are working on developing parts, developing technology, further advancing the technology, doing R&D. They're here now. They've come and exhibited at Hanover. They work to partner with different companies and advance the technology. Those companies actually work together collectively with the Connecticut Hydrogen and Fuel Cell Coalition, which is run by my colleague over here and his colleagues, Paul, at the Connecticut Center for Advanced Technology. So that our companies work together. They try to advance the technology. We have stationary power applications. We have hydrogen generation and hydrogen fueling applications. We also have transportation applications as well.
So that, that question then to you, Paul. There's a significant number of projects already up and running, a total capacity of an astonishing 106 megawatts. So why is Connecticut recognized and continues to be recognized as an industry leader for fuel cell applications?
Well, as Aaron mentioned, first and foremost, the state of Connecticut has provided support for the industry through the coalition, through my colleagues here at the Department of Economic and Community Development. But in addition to that, the state of Connecticut has established several policies which have been very supportive in getting projects built. Some of those policies include net metering, production incentives. They have a microgrid program. They provide financing through the Connecticut Green Bank and other resources. And they also have renewable portfolio standards. So with renewable portfolio standards, they are looking to have approximately 20% of all the electricity that's sold in Connecticut come from renewable energy. And in Connecticut, fuel cells are classified as a Class 1 renewable energy source.
Everyone always sees the cars first, don't they? The transportation applications are always the sexiest things on the street. So in the transportation sector, you need the fuel cell cars and the fueling stations. How is Connecticut doing there? Aaron?
Connecticut continues to work on moving that meter forward. We currently we will have 2 stations up and running, commercially available for hydrogen fueling stations within our state. There is a commercially available fueling station at Proton Onsite, the Nell establishment in Wallingford, and there's going to be another fueling station available in the next couple of months in the Hartford area. So we're on our way towards having that infrastructure set up so that the hydrogen fuel cars are able to be rolled out and provided to our population. The work to move that forward, to move the needle forward there, is being done by CCAT. They're partnering at a federal level and a state level and at a regional level. CCAT works with the H2 USA initiative to develop and kind of work on roadmaps to establish how many fueling stations we're going to need to support how many cars within the state of Connecticut, but also in the Northeast region. So on the West Coast, there are the infrastructure is there, but we're in a prime position now for that infrastructure to kind of move forward. Through our partnerships with the state and with CCAT and with the companies, and we're also partnering with the car manufacturers. They understand that the next step in the rollout for their cars and for the vehicles is going to be in the state of Connecticut, hopefully, and then also in the Northeast region generally. So we're definitely seeing that coming down the line very soon.
How does Connecticut actually attract green technologies to the region? Is there some strategy you have to get them to come and set foot in the territory and anchor themselves there, Paul?
Well, I think generally it goes to the supportive policies and the direction that the state of Connecticut has set for itself. Those goals, as I mentioned earlier, include a higher percentage of renewables that are able to provide electricity. In addition, Connecticut is one of the 9 states that signed an MOU in the United States to increase the number of zero-emission vehicles that are used basically in the state of Connecticut. So it's a combination of establishing goals with increasing quantities of renewable energy, as well as participating on a regional scale to help develop the infrastructure, as Aaron pointed out.
And of course, it's also potentially possible to offer resources to companies seeking to establish themselves in Connecticut. Are resources available? What's on offer in Connecticut, George?
Well, yeah, we have a plethora of resources available in Connecticut. We kind of like to get involved in the beginning with people. That's why we are set up, the Department of Economic and Community Development, to actually partner with folks from the beginning and take them through the end. When you come to us and begin a discussion about what your needs are, we deal with you in your specifications. We have a concierge program that we can specifically use to help you locate and site where you might want to begin your production or set up your company. We also have workforce assistance that we provide in terms of making certain that our colleges and universities are providing the type of skilled labor that you need. Specifically, if there's a type of training that you anticipate that your workers will need, we can interface with the educational system to have them provide that training. We also have technical assistance that we can provide. Some of it is provided through CCAT and CONSTEP to help companies become more efficient in what they're doing. And lastly, we have incentives that could be either tax incentives that are based on the amount of capital expenditure that your company is making in terms of the equipment that it purchases, or the building that it either purchases or has a capital lease for, along with the expenditure that you put out for your workforce. If that is significant enough, that could earn you tax incentives that you could utilize to lessen your tax exposure in the state of Connecticut. There are also R&D tax credits, because this is a technological sort of industry that we're talking about, that you could utilize depending upon what you might be researching, that could also lessen your cost to develop products in our state. And lastly, I think the most important resource and most important thing to be aware of is the fact that we just had our new governor elected this past November, and renewables and renewable energy is something that's a big thing on his agenda. So a target is out there for companies like yours that are potentially bringing this type of technology to our state. So those are the kinds of things that we can provide.
You mentioned, Aaron, a number of applications available. Any other strategies to support specifically manufacturing in the state?
Sure. As we talked about earlier, with the state of Connecticut, we have a history in manufacturing. So we're continuing to want to develop and drive that industry forward. Based on our company's needs and feedback from the industry, it's understanding that additional investments in manufacturing are continually needed to be made. So recently we've had the investment of $75 million in the Manufacturing Innovation Fund. That fund provides access to resources to help companies continue developing their manufacturing capability. Some of those funds are used in a matching grant sort of fashion, where companies can receive 50% of their investment up to $100,000. So a $50,000 grant from the state, $50,000 from the company to invest in a piece of equipment. So whether it's test beds, whether it's new machinery, whether it's bringing in bigger presses or specialty welding materials, we can make those investments and partner with the state. Companies can partner with the state to make those investments. Those funds are also used for what we call incumbent worker training. If your employees need additional training and you need to increase their capabilities, there's some funding from the state where you're able to make investments in that. Additionally, we're currently in a 10-year development of our STEM capabilities within the state of Connecticut. So investments have been made in our public university to increase the number of faculty, increase the number of students who are coming in and getting that training. There is a tech park at our University of Connecticut, which has an $80 million that has been been invested from private industry to, again, continue working and partnering together, doing the R&D, having partnerships between faculty, students, and the industry to continue developing manufacturing capabilities within the state. And so these investments are being made to continue to meet the workforce needs of our industry. We partner with our industry, we hear their feedback, we understand that these investments are needed.
We still have a few minutes, so I'd like to sort of think tank this whole thing here because it's kind of interesting. People talk about critical mass, that is, you need a certain quantity of human capital, knowledge. For the fuel cell industry, which is high tech, it's great to have cooperating institutions, universities, a density of university and intellectual think power is important. People already within the field who are working, perhaps developing things, and the interaction is so fundamental. Do you get phone calls from universities or companies saying, we are looking for a doctor in physical science who does ceramics? Do you negotiate the nitty-gritty in developing these things? Do they approach you for support literally on a communications level?
Well, when companies do come into the state, they obviously come to us and make it known what their workforce needs are. And as Aaron was saying earlier, we do have relationships with the various universities, specifically the vocational universities, in order to provide that resource for them. I was speaking with Ron Angelo, who is the CEO of CCAT, who told me that they are putting together a matrix, literally, of the students that are graduating from the various universities and colleges in the state of Connecticut with specific backgrounds in this area so that they will be able to tell employers exactly what the skill sets are of the people that are graduating from colleges. So that is a very important thing.
I'll just add that I think what's most interesting is that when companies take the opportunity to reach out and work directly with the universities, they can have the universities try to provide the additional skills, the specific skill set that's needed to meet their needs for a workforce. So if a student goes to one of our technical colleges and receives a degree, the companies are working directly with those technical colleges to say, I need them here, they're here, but I need them, to have some additional skills. And they can tailor their education options around that. And it's really great when you have our companies work with our universities to have a tailor-made program where our companies are then specifically drawing their workforce from recent graduates, knowing that they're going to come out with the skill set that's needed for them to be successful when they start working.
And isn't that a feedback loop? High tech is like kinetic energy, isn't it? You have high-paid jobs, and all of a sudden the universities think, oh, we should be catering to this market, not simply because they have the expertise, but because the students want to be part of this goal, reaching renewable energy and emissions-free transportation, for example. So it must go in both directions.
And I'll just add, since we haven't said it yet, a third of all jobs in the U.S. are based in the fuel cell, in the fuel cell industry are based in Connecticut. So there, like you said, the density of our education, our technology, our capability are based in Connecticut and are the center of the region in the Northeast that are really developing this technology. Our University of Connecticut has our Clean Energy Engineering Initiative. So we have professors, faculty, staff working together with the students, providing the training, continuing to do the R&D, continuing to further advancements in the technology. So the reason that fuel cells are so strong in Connecticut is because we have the density. The technology developed from UTC, which is a Connecticut company, and have spawned additional advancements and additional companies that spawned off from that.
You mentioned the number of jobs. That's incredibly important because in practical math, this is a job creator, isn't it? And it really is important to recognize a third of the jobs in the field are in your region. We have trouble getting recognition for this also in regions in Germany. For instance, Saxony is known for a lot of things, but people don't know that there's this vibrant new tech development region. It's sort of it gets elided into other discussions, and I think the real attractions are always mobile applications because once you get those things on the road, people see them on a day-to-day basis. When you look forward to what may happen in the coming years, you mentioned that there is new government. They have emission standards in view, and one has to recognize that a lot of regions in the United States actually have stricter emission standards than we do in Germany. So that's always, we should remind people of that. But when you look towards the future, at what point are local populations and international people going to recognize that this is a motor for the economy as well as a service to the environment?
I'll just say first that we currently have these applications out there. We have fuel cells are in our large apartment buildings, fuel cells are in our shopping centers. Our stationary power applications are currently out there, and as Paul likes to point out, it's not a future technology, it's a technology of now. So the fuel cells are out there. Educating the regular population as to what the benefits of a fuel cell application may be, backup power generation, smart grids, storage. These are all options that are available. And like you said, the cars might be that intro in. But I think, Paul, you'll agree that the technology has been developed and advanced and is continuing to be applied currently in our state.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct, Aaron. And I'll just add one other thing, in that there's also opportunities for hydrogen as an energy storage medium. With the increasing development of wind, both offshore and solar projects, there's going to be excess renewable capacity that hopefully we'll be able to utilize hydrogen for energy storage as well.
That's a wonderful way to end and pick up next year, because, of course, electrolysis is the booming industry here. You need to store renewable energy. You have to put it into hydrogen. And all of a sudden, the potential for grids, for really green hydrogen as opposed to gray hydrogen, it's all on the map there. This has been so informative. I have to visit Connecticut. I've been there before, but I have to go back because I know of the intellectual capital there. The university systems in the region are fantastic. I've been talking to George Norfleet, who is the director of the Department of Economic and Community Development in Connecticut, Aaron Knight, who does the business development, and Paul Aresta, who is manager at Energy Initiatives, and it's all about the state of Connecticut. If you have fuel cell manufacturing in your sites, there's the go-to place to do it. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.